This doesn't quite fit with the low budget theme, but it was a request from my friend Debbie, and my friend Debbie and I are partners in crying because we both have arthritis. Now, here's a little bit about this film that you may or may want to know, and a little bit about, me and my mom and our weird relationship. It's not exactly strained, it's just weird. And I will put a timestamp down in the description that you can skip all this bullshit and get straight to the review if you want. I'm cool with that. So here we are, let's get to it. This movie's budget was $30,000, and back in 1962, when some of your parents weren't even born and your grandparents were born, $30,000 would have gotten you a house, like a 5-bedroom house. You could buy 2 cars with $30,000 right off the lot. $30,000 wasn't even what most people made in a year. Nowadays, you're below the poverty line or just right at it if you make $30,000 a year. So in that respect, it's not low budget, but it is low budget in a few other respects. It is low budget in a few other respects because it's been written, directed, and produced by the same guy. The film opened to much panning, like it just didn't connect with audiences of that time, and it had a small problem with a copyright claim not being put on it, so then it made it in the public domain. And since it didn't really make a lot of money, and I think since there was no copyright claim on it, money couldn't be made off of Americans, and it was fine when it went overseas. So that's probably why I can't find a box office number for it to determine what the financial amount of floposity it was. But let's just say for the time being that it didn't do well. Now, it played on a lot of late night TV, like it does now. That's how my friend Debbie found it. She found it and then approached me on Messenger and said, "Hey, this one was interesting. Give it a go." Up until 1989, when it started getting really, really liked, I do believe that is when my older brothers bought it. And it was banned from my eyes. My mom turned into Pinhead and said, "This is not for your eyes. Turn away." And I couldn't watch it. And I tried to watch it when she wasn't home, and then, her radar would go off and the phone would start ringing. And she'd say, "What are you doing?" "Nothing." "No, what are you doing? You're in the house. You're not out riding your bike." "Are you watching that movie?" But I think she got it confused with another film, because I watched this, I had my rebellion going on. I was like, I'm going to move the laundry from this chair to the other chair because I know my mom wouldn't like the way my house looks, but I don't care. I'm going to get my tall boy or tall girl of Strawberryta, since that's kind of a woman's beer, and I'm going to lay in my chair and curse everyone I used to work with cholera or something, and I'm gonna drink this and just be like, "Take that, Mom!" And I fell asleep because I was emotionally exhausted. I'm going to rate it 4 stars, and here's where the review is going to start. I'm going to just put a timestamp in case you want to skip all that bullshit, and here we go. Now, Mary, who for the sake of my review, I am going to say lives in Wells, Nevada. Now, why do I say Wells, Nevada? Because the structure she becomes obsessed with when she sees Mr. Creepface, whom looks like this, is seen right by Saltaire. That looks like this. Now, Mary's driving along a long, lonely night, and she is recently the only survivor of a car crash. You'd think after this Mary wouldn't even want to be in a car, but she was a passenger when her friends were drag racing with other people, and she got knocked off a bridge and into the water. And she's found trudging barefoot out of the car to the rescue team up ahead. Mary gets settled in her new town in some unnamed city in Utah, and she does what people did in the 1960s when you were a single woman or a single man and you didn't have the finances to buy a house. You stayed in a room and shared a bathroom and all that stuff with someone who had rooms for rent. So that's what Mary does, and she gets to know her pastor. It's a choir thing. There's an organ there. But Mary keeps seeing this creepy guy, and nobody else keeps seeing him. And there are two different times where Mary is not able to be seen or heard. And Mary is not a Mary Sue. Mary, at the very first, at the beginning, says she absolutely doesn't like people, and she doesn't want to go see her folks in some town that I can't remember the name of. I had it in my brain, but it's not important. And she doesn't want to do anything with anybody. And if she could get her own apartment and avoid people, she would. But after seeing this guy a couple of times, she changes her tune. The best scene was when the guy takes over her body. She's playing the organ all beautiful and church-like, and then he takes over her body and turns it into something evil. Now, I know when most people think of organ music, they think of this. But it was something it was actually creepier than that. And that, I would say, was one of the best scenes. One of the worst scenes was probably with the psychiatrist kind of thing, because then she wins the White Girl Award of, I know you told me to stay away, but I just can't. Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar's gonna win that award here soon, a couple of reviews from now, when I make myself rewatch that film. She wins the White Girl Should Have Known Better award, and that's the worst scene, is when she wins the White Girl Should Have Known Better award. Now, here's a spoiler. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1. If you want to click out and you want to watch it, it should be easy to watch. You could probably stream it. You can buy it for $1. It should be the easiest movie. You could probably get it for YouTube free on like some whatever. Anyway, 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't care if you are done. The spoiler is, she goes out. She follows the creepy guy and where he's taking her out to Saltaire, or the structure, as she calls it. They never give it a name, also making it feel a little bit like a low-budget movie. You don't want to do any name dropping, because then you'd have to pay them. And earlier, she watched a literal Carnival of Souls. See, it comes at night. That's how you're supposed to name your movie, but I digress. Watches dead people. Not the way Jack Torrance would have seen the dead people dancing around, but the way Danny Torrance or Wendy Torrance would have seen the way dead people dancing around. And it's this weird, sort of interesting thing that I do believe the dancing in the Carnival of Souls and her dancing with the evil man about to be taken happened during the organ scene where he takes over her hands and made her play that profane music and lose her job. She goes out this last time, and they're not dancing, they're staring. And I don't know why she doesn't run back to her car. She runs to the water. Like, maybe they had her held off and whatever, but she runs to the water, and since there's so much freaking mud because you're on the borderlines with salt flats, she gets her feet stuck in the mud and she falls, and then since it's 1962, you can't see what happens. And it cuts to the psychiatrist and a couple of her friends who she met in Utah. My hair is sticking in my makeup. A couple of her friends who she met in Utah come and see that she is gone. They see that her footprints led to there where she fell, and there's nowhere else. And then we cut back to, like I said, we're gonna say she's from Wells, Nevada, because you can't go to Idaho, you can't go to freaking Wyoming, Arizona, or Colorado, or any of the states that surround beautiful Utah and see salt air. Salt air has to be when you're having a Wendover weekend. We have a lot of those. And so there she goes, and we cut back to Wells, Nevada, when she went off the bridge, and she's in the car. Now, my first thought was, oh, you kind of inspired The Sixth Sense, didn't you? One of those she was dead the whole time things. Whatever. And I thought there was bad editing. I know, my stupid ass can't talk about bad editing because I'm new to this. But I thought there was bad editing. Because in the beginning, she's like this, with her head that way. And then they start talking and stuff. And there's a look on her face of, you know, accusation. Like, damn it, you should have found this car sooner. And she turns and her mouth's closed, her eyes are closed, but even though her eyes are closed, you could still feel in her nose and mouth and stuff that there's a look of accusation. And that's how it ends. Now, I do believe this isn't a Sixth Sense, she was already dead kind of thing. There were 2 instances where no one could see or hear her, but how does her body end up on the edge of the salt flats and then end up in the car? I don't know exactly how it works, but I do believe the souls, the ones that were beckoning her in, were pissed that she lived and they died. So I give it 4 stars. 1, because of participation. 2, because of a good script. 3, because of good acting. And 4, it didn't actually scare me. I forgot the last 4. 4, because of a decent plot twist. Yes. 4, because of a decent plot twist. Because it could go either way. My interpretation is that these souls were pissed at her for living when it was her damn time to die. And who the hell does she think she is? And there's little hints at the end where you can kind of see that Mary, maybe her soul is dead, but her body's still alive.